When we come into this world, it's on the back of a long chain of events that have led to us. We spend our life pondering our direction and where we need to go. But most of us don't even know who we are or where we fall in the story. So we turn to society for answers. Society tells us we need to be materialistic to be happy. We learn that thinking too much about the world is bad and that being submissive is the answer. Ultimately, we become a cog on the wheel, but as this goes on, we all find that we are unhappy and are struggling to get by. But we live in modern times, so why is life so hard? Let's take a look at who we were originally. In the beginning, people lived in tribes. Human nature is designed around tribal dynamics. We were part of a team that lives and works together for the betterment of the tribe. We had to obtain food and defend territory. We all got a chance to be the hero, and we could be because each of us is different and brings something to the table. Some of us were warriors, some of us were entertainers, some were inventors, and some of us were leaders. And this is how it was for 95% of human history. At first, we had to hunt for food and forage for things like berries. Food came from the wilds, and we had to find ways to obtain it. Originally, our world was dominated by many large animals. Every continent was like the Serengeti, and we humans lived among them. As time went on, people learned more about fire, weapons, and tactics and began exploiting the various elephant species. Killing one gave you a huge meal that would last a long time and provided many resources. Animals like lions and saber-toothed cats were common in many regions in these days and could sometimes pick off a person or two at night when we couldn't see them coming. But over time, an alliance was formed. When we killed things like mammoths, things like bones and material we didn't eat got left behind. So animals like wolves came to scavenge the remains. At first, they were probably chased away, but eventually it was discovered that having them around allowed us to benefit from their senses. Now if a lion came near the camp, the wolves would alert us so we could defend against it. Meanwhile, the wolves got the benefits of our superior hunting tactics. From then on, these humans and wolves joined forces. Humans traveled to other continents, and in each place they developed different tactics in how to live. At first, it was all about the elephant hunting, but as time went on, it became unsustainable for each tribe to kill a mammoth each month for survival. The entire biosphere was developed with elephants in mind. Elephants eat a lot of plant matter and create ecosystems based on their eating habits. Grasses could simply regenerate sustainably, while certain plants develop toxins or thorns that discourage browsing. In the process, dry deciduous forest becomes moist savanna and mossy tundra becomes steppe tundra. The elephants created habitats that were highly beneficial to other animals, such as the many grazing and browsing species and the carnivores and scavengers that depended on them. The hunting disrupted this dynamic, and many areas of the world lost their megafauna as a result. The only places that didn't were places where humans originally lived and the animals had time to adapt, such as Africa and South Asia. As this change took place and the primary prey of humans was lost, new sustainable tactics had to be developed. In North America, the focus had to shift to smaller, more rapidly reproducing prey. As the ecological dynamic changed, many grasslands became forest and tallgrass prairie. The primary prey became bison and deer, and those animals required the invention of the bow and arrow. To increase their numbers, because they couldn't be domesticated, the natives started fires in industries of forest to open them up and increase the browse for deer and other small game, while in addition bringing in forage plants like raspberries. While on the prairies, fires killed the taller, less nutritious grass and favored the higher quality shorter grasses. In the Middle East, in Iraq, there is an area known as the Fertile Crescent. It was here that agriculture began. In this region, plants like wheat were harvested by people and carried back to camp. And then, some of the seeds got lost and would find itself growing right by the camp. People always harvested the bigger crop, and as such, the crop got larger. As it became possible to grow food, people didn't have to travel so much and towns could form. In addition to the dog, other animals would eventually come along and become part of the humans. With the advent of growing and storing food came the advent of pests. Pests were a serious problem to the food supply. But in the region, there was a species called the wild cat that would go into grain silos and eat the vermin. So cats are tolerated and in some cases worshipped. Over time, the cats that were the tamest were the ones that got the benefit the most, and along with the dogs, cats now became one with the humans. Other animals also came into the fold. Sheep and goats came from the nearby mountains. Sheep had the behavior of flocking together when chased and didn't jump fences. Originally, sheep had to be killed for fur and didn't grow wool, and goats were milked and used as a beast of burden. Pigs came from the wild boar in the forest regions. Cattle came from the orich in the grasslands. Horses, much later, from the wild tarpon in the grasslands. Chickens came from India. Some of these animals could pull plows and allowed for more intensive farming. Much of this happened for thousands of years before there was writing or any empires being built. As this all happened, populations grew and concepts like wealth and power came from the organization of society. Not everyone had to farm. There had to be warriors to defend the town. There needed to be carpenters, blacksmiths, tailors, and other craftsmen. There needed to be merchants who could bring wealth to the city. There needed to be leadership. People were already very superstitious about the world around them because they didn't know science or what anything really was. There was a region in what is currently the Persian Gulf that was a fertile paradise, but as the Ice Age ended, the water levels rose and flooded the area. This story would be told orally for thousands of years, each time with someone adding something more. There might have been a man who escaped the flood by making a boat and saved his family and his livestock. Then one may have changed that story to be even more of a tall tale. As time went on, people learned to manipulate people through superstition. From it, religions were born. The idea that the king was made to be king by the creator of the universe and was on his side solidified his power. The idea that when one dies and is a productive member of society, they get to live in eternal paradise. Religions build empires and solidify power. Originally, each village had its god, and each holy man had power through his god. Eventually, some empires pushed for unification by having a single god. One's power came from the amount of wealth they possessed. Wealth was gained from resources, conquest, and manipulation. As the individual in the tribe became replaceable, the individual was stripped of his humanity and went into a mindset where the only way to find happiness was to fall within the system, and the power was transferred to the ones leading society. Much of history since then has been empires rising and falling as each government fails to meet the needs of the people, and the leaders become consumed by greed and taking everyone down with them in their quest to obtain it. Today, we think we are beyond it, but we are not. We may live in a free country, but propaganda still controls what we think. People still don't know the real story. Our leaders are still fighting wars for money, yet the public believes it's a war for freedom and worships the soldiers. We believe we are fighting terrorists, while we are committing genocide against hundreds of thousands of Arabs. We watch this box called the TV, but we are hit by ads from childhood that we need to participate in gluttonous consumerism to be happy. Meanwhile, we are funding the very thing that binds us. Do we need to live in giant houses? Do we need to design suburbia so we all have to own cars and risk our lives every day by driving out on the roads? Do we need to live in debt to get by? The laws and regulations have bound us to the system so that those in power can profit and further enslave us. But if you think outside the box, there is a way to escape. We can reject needless materialism and find freedom in that while starving those who wish to enslave us. The other night, I harvested my first crop from my first attempt at gardening. I harvested a radish and I ate the whole thing, including the leaves that I cooked. The sheer quality of the fiber brought my body happiness. We were meant to eat real foods, not processed foods.
I still haven't found the answers, but I think it lies within homesteading, living in a small home, RV or tent, and overall living a frugal lifestyle that our ancestors had. Our natural instincts have evolved around what we spend most of human history doing, going camping and living an adventure every day, kind of like the stuff we do when we go on vacation. When I tell people I want a homestead, people tell me, now that sounds like living. I'm going to explore this route and see if I find real freedom. I encourage everyone to experiment with growing crops this coming spring. Sleeping in a tent during this coming summer, work with the animals that made our lives easier, and practice being at home in nature and seeing if that makes your life happier than the grind that corporate America tricks us into doing. And if you do that, it might feel something like this.